Hey everyone, my name's Andrew Hess, and today we're going to integrate Power Automate with ChatGPT-4o, the new model. Create a custom connector with Power Automate. So if you want to integrate ChatGPT with Power Automate, you need to use ChatGPT API. So this is not the premium version that you pay for monthly. This is a different version called ChatGPT API. And you can put, $10 in here. I put $10 in here, and I've been developing for weeks, and I think I've only used about 30-some cents. What we want to do is we want to integrate with the ChatGPT-4o, the brand new model that they have released. Then what you want to do is you want to come over here to your API keys. You see your API keys here? You want to create a new secret key. So we're going to create a new one. It's just going to be me. I'm just going to say test for today. So we're just going to create a test for today API key. So if you're watching this video, I'm going to delete it. You can't use my API key, but let's create one. Now you're only going to be able to see this API key one time. So you need to make sure that you copy it and save it. Make sure that you copy your API key, save it somewhere else you got to create a new one. Not a big deal. You're not going to lose anything. You just create a new one and then reset your Power Automate or your app or your connector back with your new API key. So now we're in the world of Power Automate. I saw some videos where people were showing you how to create custom connectors. I don't want to just show you, how you create a custom connector for just one GPT. No, this is for all GPTs. We're going to go through and create this a lot slower than a lot of the other videos I saw. So right here is custom connectors. If you don't see custom connectors, you go to More, Discover All, scroll down, and I believe it's right here. So custom connectors. Make sure to pin that right onto your sidebar. So once you pin your custom connector in there, we're going to go to New Custom Connectors. So New Custom Connector from blank, and we will call it YouTube Connector GPT-4o. So this is going to be our new YouTube Connector 4o today. Oh, we can't use the word connector in there. YouTube GPT-4o. Continue. Okay, so background color. So this is going to be like the little color that you see in Power Automate. I'll give it a 0FF0FF, just kind of a random color. I don't know what that is. Description. So we need a short description. This is a custom connector for our YouTube video on Andrew Hess channel for 4o GPT. We're not going to do on-premise gateway, but now the host. Let me show you where this comes from instead of just telling you what it is. Okay, we're in our API reference documentation, and if you come right here, API reference, this is where we're going to get this information, and we want to go to the endpoint of chat. And you notice right here, this example is what we're going to use to build our connection to GPT-4o. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to API-OpenAI.com. That's going to be our first part in Power Automate. Host API, base URL / nice and blank. Security, we created an API key. So just paste it, use API key. Parameter label, this is going to be API key. And the parameter name, I'm going to just call it authorization. And we're going to use a parameter location called header. The reason I'm calling it authorization is right here in our header, we're using an authorization bearer and then our key. So that's why I'm going to call it authorization. And then we'll click next. Okay, so now we need to create an action for our custom connector. We're going to do new action. Now we can say, what do we want it to be? What do we want to call it? What do we want people to see? YouTube, or let's call it Andrew GPT-4o. ID is the same. Description, this is for our YouTube channel preview. Now visibility, we do want people to be able to see it, so I'm going to say it's important. The request here is where we're going to post. So think about Power Apps. We're going to post our URL. So our URL is right here. This is the one with chat completions. If this changes, you can change it in the future. Our header is going to be that content type, application / JSON. So that's the same thing that we got right out of the documentation. And then the body, we're going to copy that also. So we can see in our header right here, content type, application JSON. We're going to pull it in the authorization bearer number later. And now the body is right here in between the squiggly brackets. We're going to paste that in. And it's a post, and we're going to do import. All right, so we have our post, we have our content type. Let me go a little bit slower. So we have our request. Right here, we need to define our headers. So I'm going to do edit on the content type. Description, we'll just say content type. Default value is the application / JSON. Is this required? Yes. It's internal. And then we'll click save, or we'll just click back. You have to be careful right here. So click back here. Is it internal? No, we'll say visibility of none. Visibility of none actually on the content type. Now the body. We have 3 options right now. So in our body, yes, it's required. Yes, it's important. The content, this is what we're going to have people type in. So this is our content. This is, or actually we'll call this prompt. This is our prompt. Is it required? Yes, it's very important. And it's not a drop-down. So yes, we're going to call this prompt. So right here, important. Operations parameters are always shown to the user first. Advanced operations parameters are hidden under an additional menu. Internal operations are hidden from the user. So if you don't even want them to see it, you could then do internal and not let them see it at all. So let's go back. So prompt, we definitely want people to see it. It's important, so that's going to be at the top. And then we'll click back. So role. Role is going to be a default value of user. Required, yes, and this time we'll do internal. If you remember from the documentation, internal operation parameters are hidden from the user. That's what we want. Is it required? Yes, yes, yes. All that looks good. We'll click back. Make sure to click this back arrow. Finally, the model. The model is what we can do differently. This is where we can do GPT-4o, or we can do multiple. We can have a drop down. So this is very nice too. So a lot of times when I want to look at the models, I look at the pricing. So the default value is going to be our GPT-4o, but let's look at that pricing. So the new model, GPT-4o right here, is $5 per 1 million tokens. And my estimate is 1 million tokens is about 700,000 to 750,000 words. So that's for the input. For the output, it's $15 per 1 million tokens. So about 700,000 words. For me, sometimes I give the user a little cheaper option, and that's to use the GPT 3.5 Turbo, which is 50 cents for 750,000 tokens, or $1.50 for the output. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, this one is important, required, but this time I'm going to give it a drop down. Dynamic. So I'm going to paste in what I had in there before. Let's see if I got that in there. So GPT Turbo, that's the 50 cents one. I want 4o to also be an option. So now I have 2 options in there, 4o or my 3.5. And then I'm going to click back. Now, we can click in here. Let's see, important for the body. That's fine. That's at the top. So visibility, yeah, this is not important. Let's take a look at what it's going to look like. So I'm going to go all the way to test. For AI plugin and code, I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to click test and click create connector. And this is going to give us a visual of what our connector will look like when it's in Power Automate. So we'll just wait on that to create. Shouldn't take too long. All right, so we have it created. It looks like application JSON is going to be visible to write on. GPT-4o is going to be visible to write on, and so is prompt. And maybe we want to get rid of that prompt. User looks good. I like the way user is. I want to make sure content type is like user. I want to make sure content type is like user. So let's go back. Definition. So let's look at user. or role, it's set up as internal. So let's go to content type, go back, content type. It's set up at visibility none. Oh, maybe it would be all right. I'm just going to say internal. Internal, so I'm fixing some things in here. The other thing I didn't like was in my body. I didn't like that the default value, actually not in model, but in prompt was prompt. I want the default value to be blank, actually. So it's kind of good that we go through this when we make mistakes. You get to see how to fix this stuff. Now I'm just going to do update connector, and we're going to update it again and look at the test again. So while that's updating, we're going to kind of get a visual of what it will look like in Power Automate. You know, it's great when I make mistakes, in my opinion, because a lot of people make mistakes, and it's a lot easier to kind of, you know, go back and fix it. If I just show you the answer, then, you know, you're going to be stuck. But look, application JSON. Now it's not selectable. I like that. The model is selectable. There's no drop down yet, but there will be. The role is not selectable, and content is blank. I like this. I'm going to click close. We can create a new connection here, but I'm going to do that in Power Automate. So we'll wait for Power Automate to put in our API key. There's two ways you can do it, but this is the way I'm going to do it today. Okay, so when we're in the Power Automate world, we can set our trigger however we want. But for this demo today, I'm going to do it based on an instant cloud flow, and we're just going to see a manually triggered flow. So manually trigger GPT-4o. Now you can do it however you want with whatever trigger you want. If you want to do a Power Apps, if you want to do it in a custom bot, Power Virtual Agents, all kinds of selected message from Teams, that's what you can do with your trigger. But I'm going to do it just manually because we're going to run it manually today. So now I'm going to say, I want to get the items from my SharePoint site. And I want to loop through every one of my list items. So I'm going to say get items from SharePoint. I could say get item if I wanted to, but I'm going to say get items from the SharePoint site. My newest one, which is test GPT-4o today. And the list name is our prompts, my prompts, I believe. My prompts, show all. So we're not going to do a filter query. We're fine. We're going to say get items. And now we're going to do our custom GPT connector. So runtime custom, right here, YouTube GPT-4o. Now this is where it's asking for that API key. So connection name is Andrew GPT. Now the API key, you can't just put the API key in straight in there. Look at the documentation. The documentation says bearer, then the API key. So you got to make sure to put bearer in there. So bearer, and make sure there's a space, and then your API key. Create new. So bearer space and your API key. All right, so I like the way this looks. Notice in the model, I have a drop down now. So this is where I had a drop down. It looks like we can do custom value. I didn't know that I could do that, but we have a drop down. We can do 3.5 or we can do 4o, the new GPT model. Now add item, we have content. This is where we send in our content. So in the prompt, I'm going to say it's the title of get items. And this is going to put it in a loop. It's just fine. Boom, it put it in a for each. So we're going to grab the title of our SharePoint list and we're going to loop through. So we can add another one in here like say hello. And maybe one more, we'll say what version of ChatGPT are you? So we can say what version of ChatGPT are you? Now, this is where it becomes a little complicated. This is where we want to parse the JSON. So JSON, parse. There's a few different ways to get this. To get a parsed JSON, we want to upload a sample. So I'm actually going to delete the parsed JSON, click OK, and I'm going to compose. I'm going to run a compose action here. Compose, because I want to see that output. Compose, and what am I going to compose? I'm going to compose the body of my GPT-4. So this may cost you a little bit of money. It's fine. Maybe you only want to do one prompt in here. I'm going to do a few. So now I'm going to click save and I'm going to test. Test, manually, test, continue, run flow. So it's going to go to SharePoint, grab that for GPT-4, grab that body, and then it's going to run and compose it. And in my compose, you can see here it's responding to us. Why did the computer go to therapy? Right here, you can grab it from any of the choices. Let's see, show raw inputs. Let's do outputs, show raw outputs. So here is our entire compose statement. I'm going to grab all of this entirely. And now I'm going to go back to edit. I'm going to say plus here, add an action, JSON, parse JSON, use sample payload. I'm going to paste in that sample. The content is our body. Now, so we're running that through the parse JSON. Now watch what happens to compose. If I click X here, we can see that we get body, model, ID, object, created, model, index, but we're not getting the response. What I really want is the content of the message response. And that is right, it's hidden right in here. So we have to do one more action to get what we want. So this is going to be the one time where I'm just going to copy and paste in the formula. So right here, I'm going to get rid of body. I'm going to click on FX and I'm going to paste this in. So we're going to do the parse JSON. Notice that's the exact name of our. So look at it, look at the JSON closely. Body, choices, look at the indentation in, that's where we want to go. Choices, message, content. So each one of those, that's how we build that output statement. So output, body, choices, the first message, content, update. Now we're going to write this to our SharePoint list. So SharePoint, we're going to update an item in the same library. So test4 GPT today, my prompts, or actually it's right here, get items. So when we got the items at the very first step, the ID is here. We're going to click show all advanced parameters. The title, we need a new line, actually row in our list. So we need text, response. We'll call it response. Save. Okay, we made that update in there. We have a response column. I'm going to have to delete it and click save. And these are just steps that maybe I think you want to, learn from. Errors are way better to show than just showing you how to do everything perfectly, right? I don't want to give you the fish. I want to teach you how to fish. So now, add action. Let's try one more time. So update item, SharePoint, the site, the list name. It's loading again. My prompts. The ID is get items, ID. Now look, advanced parameters 0 of 3. The response, we're going to update it with our outputs of compose. I'm going to click save. And now we're going to test again. Test, manually, test, run the flow again. Let's watch it step through. Boom, 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 boom. It's going to do 3 times, right? For each 3 times. Let's go to our test GPT. Look at this. Refresh. Looks like the last one may not have worked. Why did the last one not work? Let's find out. The max length. So once again, I made another mistake. Let's convert our prompt response to a multi-line text. Multiple lines of text, click OK. So it was too short, or was the response was too long. Run, test, automatic. The test failed. Let's send it in again. This time, now with the multiple lines of text, which is over 255, everything should be successful. So it looks like it ran successfully. I bet you the joke will change. We'll refresh. There you go. It even added emojis. Oh my gosh, that's too amazing. Sure, here's a fresh joke. Why did the computer go on a diet? Because it has too many cookies. And then we can see that he's an instance language model of ChatGPT-4 architecture. If you have any questions, need assistance, and then say hello. how are you doing today? So that is my demo for using ChatGPT with SharePoint. Just imagine the possibilities. You can do this in Copilot Studio. Of course, you can use OpenAI too, but I wanted to show ChatGPT-4o today. And then we can go into OpenAI Copilot also. This is not just for stay in the Microsoft realm. Maybe there's other APIs, other models that you want to be able to reach out to that, who knows what APIs will be released in the future. Maybe it's not just ChatGPT. Now that you have ChatGPT and Power Automate, it opens up the world for you anywhere you want to go. If you want to do a Facebook trigger, you can. If you want to do Twitter, you can. If you want to go into stocks, you can. If you want to see the weather, you can. Just build it into your Power Automate. My name is Andrew Hess. I'll see you next time.